Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Ollie. Welcome to the next tutorial in this series of Java for Beginners. So in this tutorial we're going to be going over try, catch and exceptions. So we remember back when we used arrays that there was an array that could occur, there was an error that could occur if you tried to access an element that didn't exist. For example, if I make an int array, just called array for example, and then I just stick two elements in there, 1 and 2. Now remember that Java has 0 indexing, so in this case this number 1 would be element number 0 and this number 2 would be element number 1. Let me just make that less confusing by naming them 0, 1 instead of 1, 2. So this array has two elements in it. This is the 0th one, this is the first one. However, if we say forgot about the 0 indexing and we try to access 1 but we thought it was number 2, so we were thinking this is 1 and this is 2, if we hit the run button we can see that we get this exception, array index out of bounds exception, and that basically is an error which could occur basically if we just made a silly mistake, and we don't necessarily want the entire program to crash just because we made a mistake. So what we can use is something called try and catch, and it's basically a block of code in which you write the code which may cause an error. For example, accessing an array, it may cause an error, so we could surround it with try and catch, and then if an error does occur, we can catch that error and then print out a message, but our program won't just crash, the program will continue to run because we've sort of successfully caught and contained the error. So the way we do this is, if I just bring the array back that I had, say for example this array, using arrays is just an example here. There's hundreds of different errors that you can compensate for, and it becomes especially useful when you're using sort of array lists and you don't know whether all of the elements will actually be filled yet. So for example, to do this, system.out.println, and then say we accessed array element 2, we think that this may cause an error, so we write try like so, and then open and close the block, and then I'm going to move this inside of the try block. So now we are quite literally, we're trying to do something. We're trying to do this thing here, and it may or may not cause an error. So you can see that there's error at the moment. It says try without catch, and that's because we need to add our catch statement. And the syntax for the catch statement is that it must come after the try statement. It doesn't have to be in the format like this. You can put it underneath it. You can make line separations. I find it easiest or best to read by doing it like this, but you can do it whichever way you want. We write catch like so, and then in brackets we put the error which we want to catch, and it's basically like in these brackets we're passing a parameter into a method. We're passing an exception parameter into this catch, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. So we're going to catch an exception, and we'll name that exception variable e. An exception is just a generic exception, and it's pretty much the superclass for all exceptions that can occur, such as array index out of bounds exception, index out of bounds, and all of those different errors. So we're going to now open and close the catch block. So now you can see we have an error-free try catch statement. So what's happening here? Well, we're trying to do this first of all. We're trying to do the code that's highlighted between the two brackets there. We're trying to print out the element number 2, which doesn't actually exist in this array here. So the error is going to occur at this point here, and then instead of the program just crashing, the error is going to be thrown and it's going to move down to the catch statement here, and then the error that was thrown is passed in as this e variable into this block here. So now using this e variable we can do stuff with that. So first of all we're going to go system.out. Instead of doing system.out, we're actually going to go system.error. That's another new thing that you can learn about. System.error is just another print stream, and the only difference between system.out and system.error is that system.error is going to print the text out in red instead of black. So system.error print line, and then what we're going to say is we're going to say cannot access array element like so. And then after doing our custom error message we can print out what's called the stack trace of this error here, and the stack trace is basically this block of text that appears here. It tells you what the exception is, it tells you where it occurred, and then it gives you this Java result. So that's what the stack trace is, and we do this by writing E, and because E is an exception object, we can use the dot to access its methods, and then we'll scroll down, and we're going to find this one here that says print stack trace, like so. You can see there's a warning, and what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that this stack trace prints out to the system.error print stream, and we can do this by supplying that as a parameter. So you can see that the print stack trace is a method. It has several different options for parameters it could take. So in the print stream we're going to write system.error, like so. And that may not make 100% sense right now, especially if you're not too confident with object-oriented programming, but try-catch is pretty much something you just sort of have to memorize, and then as you learn more of Java you'll begin to fully understand how it works. So again, we're trying to do this line of code here, but it's going to cause an error. When the error is thrown, it's going to be caught as an exception and passed into the catch statement here as the variable E, and we're going to print out our custom error message that says could not access array element, and then we're going to print what's called the stack trace, which is basically the error which occurred. So let me hit run and we'll see what happens. And you see that our custom error message prints out, it says could not access array element, and then it prints out this stack trace here, which is array out of bounds exception. It says we're trying to access the second one, it's not there, and it tells us where it occurs, and we can click on that and it highlights the line there.